when we moved out west for Jason to take the job in the San Francisco area, we knew people already living out there, through work. We had friends that were out there. That was not the case for this move. So we know nobody here in this community. We have no connections. And that, I think, has been challenging. And I'm not a super social person, but I've found it challenging as well, actually.
Two lifelong friends document and share their personal stories as they seek financial independence and to retire early. One reaches FIRE in 2020 during a global pandemic, inspiring the other to play catch up. This is Two Sides of FI. I mean, we have definite shared financial responsibilities. Like Laura pays the bills, I do the investments. We share the kind of budgeting look backs for the FI stuff. How does it work in your house?
Tell us, Lorri.
I kind of got kicked off the bills, a while ago.
20 years ago?
20 years ago. I wasn't, I don't think we actually had anything turned off, but.
No, but in your previous life, I think you might have had some utilities turned off for non-payment.
I think I had some utilities turned off a few times. So Jason pretty much takes the reins on that. And
I take care of the bills and the investments.
Yep.
I don't think I was ever able to get you to commit to a budget meeting, but we do have a net worth meeting once a year. And we do, especially now post-FIRE, we will talk about kind of if we need to make major purchases, or, for example, when, Lorri wanted to do some landscaping, we just talked about, how we pay for that. And so I think it's something we talk about maybe a little more than we did before, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it's a major point of friction either.
I mean, at this point, I don't think we need to talk about it as much. In the year or two leading up to FIRE, we definitely checked in. He would show me probably about monthly, sort of where we're at and, what, just to kind of give me an update, which was good. But
it's funny, I've already forgotten that.
So you did.
There we go.
Yeah.
So when you guys changed...
My brain's already going. That's what happens when you stop working, kids.
When you changed your number, Lorri, you said it changed a couple of different times. What made you change it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
I think it was more it was generally initiated by me, Eric.
Yeah.
Okay. And where I think you might have a response is, it's the more we learned, the more we realized we weren't talking about the more intangible, but in many ways just as important, if not more important things. What does the vacation we want to take look like? And how often do we want to take them? What do we think healthcare is going to look like? And honestly, how long do we think we're going to live? When we started to talk about those things more, I don't know if you remember those discussions, the number started to go up.
Well, and honestly, like I was saying before, I feel like we just, as time went on, we realized we don't have to live in that hut on the beach. We can actually make this work, or we can keep a fairly consistent lifestyle. We just have to do these things to make that happen.
Right. We have to save more now,
exactly.
Or, just make some changes in how we live up until that point, and then different things are enabled.
And were we willing to make those sacrifices, for whatever, 10 years or so, or whatever that number ended up being, to get to that point. And we were. I was actually I was pleasantly surprised that it was possible. I had no idea, like I said early on. I was just like, I assumed retiring meant, living in a van down by the river. But
where I think we did start to talk more, and I bet you remember this, is in the last couple years before, when we started to do more detailed modeling, right? And thinking about confidence and Monte Carlo simulations, and just making sure we were on the same page with, so this says this model's 90% confident that we're going to make it to our expected lifetime without running out of money. How do you feel about that? Mm-hmm. We started to have those conversations more and more in the last couple of years. And I think for me, at least, that making sure we were bought in together was really important. I mean, do you remember that? And how did it strike you?
That's a no.
I don't think I really have any. Yeah, I don't.
Doesn't remember it.
I just remember being like, I was surprised that there were so many tools, that there was this whole world that I didn't know existed that,
One of the things I worry about a little bit is I have a lot of people at work who, I work with a diversity of people, all really, smart, inspirational people, and I mentor a lot of people. And I do worry after all, once I get to the point where I'm not working anymore, how do I replace that? And am I not going to be challenged if I'm not around a diversity of people? And when Eric was learning about the sort of geo arbitrage idea, like go live somewhere that's a low cost of living. And I was imagining like, well, we're going to go to some place where we don't speak the language. So what we would do probably is just find people just like us and just hang out with them and live there for a period of time and never be part of the community, because how can we if we don't understand the culture and we don't speak the language? So
that's the reason not to go there?
No, I'm saying if we did do something like that, we would have to challenge ourselves I would want to challenge myself to integrate into the community as much as possible. And they probably wouldn't like to have the annoying person there, but I would go teach English or do something that would allow me to like be around the people who live there. So I wouldn't feel like this interloper.
Indoctrinate them into the Western ways.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time that we've moved somewhere without having any connections. So, when we moved out west for Jason to take the job in the San Francisco area, he knew people already. We knew people already living out there, through work. We had friends that were out there. He still had all of those connections at his job. That was not the case for this move. So we know nobody here in this community. We have no connections. And that, I think, has been challenging. And I'm not a super social person, but I've found it challenging as well, actually.
So what have you done?
Yeah, well, I think combining that with COVID just makes it, it's a tough way to start, right? A year with COVID kind of that, and that being your first year in a new town, that's a tough combination.
Yeah, and it's hard, and like Laura was saying, you don't have those. Our daughter's not at an age where we're meeting parents through the school, or we're both not. I mean, I have that day at the brewery one day a week, but it's not, it's not really enough to make any sort of. It takes a while to make connections, right? And as you get older, it's just harder, I almost feel like I'm getting lazy as I get older. I'm just like, I notice when I talk to, old friends back home or just people that I've known a while, I'm like, oh, this is just so nice. It's so like comforting, whereas making like new friends is just like this whole thing, you have to like suss them out. Like, is it a good fit? And I don't know. It's just, maybe you could speak to that. But.
Well, it's a real thing too, because I when you get to be this age, like a lot of people who are in that community, they all have friends and they're feeling the same way too. It's like, well, do I need to make the effort to like try and forge new connections? So
make a new friend.
Yeah, it's one of the big concerns we both have about moving from here, for sure.
Yeah. Well, let me put a little different angle on it. It's also tough when you are of an age as we are, where your friends are still working and you are not. And so their flexibility, their willingness to kind of get together is different when you live farther away, right? One of the challenges about moving where we did is we're only 3 hours away from our friends and our friends who we used to live near and hang out with. And so we've been too far away from you for a long time.
I know,
you should have bought the house next door when it went up for sale. But anyway, the point I was going to make is, it's tough because, I find myself, texting them and they're busy. They can't always get back to me. See, it's not just you that gets the barrage of texts. Other people do too. They can't always get back to me on a timeline that I wish they would. They're not necessarily free to meet up, even if I'm willing to drive up there for a Friday and Saturday, right? People have their own lives. And when you suddenly have almost complete freedom of time, it's reminds you often that not everybody does.
Right.
And so to an idea you've raised in the past, finding connections who are of a similar mindset, who may be on a fire path, certainly only going to help when you live to a smaller, move to a smaller town, right? I don't live in a city and I don't live near a city. So that's just a little different. And the sort of bar to make new friends has been higher this year, right? That's out of everybody's control. I'm sure that will improve. And most days I don't really think about this. And that's why when you've asked this of me in the past, it's not something I dwell on. But today, for some reason, it's just kind of on my mind. It's a change. It's something you have to
particular reason or
adapt to.
Did somebody blow you off, like not answer your text?
No. It's we had kind of tentative plans with folks, and for good reasons, those fell through. And, it's a letdown because one of the things I have found is that I look forward to the time I get with my friends who I moved away from so much now that there's a lot of buildup. And then if you're not able to like meet up or as sooner as you wanted to, it's disappointing, which is, that's a normal human reaction.
I was going to say,
but you haven't really made an effort to connect with anybody here yet.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to get on that.
Get on it.
As I understand it, you are talking about, keeping your current property, but you would like to travel and live somewhere else, whether it's a more nomadic approach or whether it's a longer term thing, maybe over time. But you are talking about being away from your network of friends and former colleagues. Mm-hmm. What does that make you think about? What are your concerns, your fears? What comes to mind?
I think when you're spending a lot of time with just your partner, you start to depend on them for, the things that you used to depend on like a whole village of people to do, right? So they, of course, Eric is my best friend, but I also have other friends, and I have family, and there's, people that you turn to for different things that you may not turn to your spouse for necessarily. And so I think I think that same is true for him. So there's the constant sharing of space, like I have a workplace, I've got my office there, like all of my messiness that I don't, all of my ugly things that Eric doesn't like are in my office.
Not here.
Not here.
I cannot imagine sharing an office with Eric because he has his particular ways.
Amazing. It's amazing.
He would die if I was in there.
I have a plastic Darth Vader that dances when the sun shines on it. Like all kinds of stupid toys that like.
Oh my God.
It's so bad.
People have given
Better
me
headphones, man.
These are not mine.
Let's kill you.
These are not mine. Eric made me wear these.
Everyone's going to be drawn to Laura's headphones in this episode because they're like the big pop of color.
I know, they are.
They're awful.
They are not mine.
They're awful. This is really embarrassing.
So
there's that. I have the same concerns you do. I mean, I think I know that I will need to, work hard to identify other people, who I can interact with in addition to, Eric and I. I mean, I think, of course, I think we are looking forward to spending a lot of time together, but I think we have to also recognize the fact that, it's important that you have, different people in your life. And so that's just going to be an adjustment because for everybody, it's so easy to just sort of make your friends through work, right? Meet your spouse through work.
Not for me.
I know. So like,
or Lorri, I mean, like if you're doing a tutoring job, you're not like making a lot of friends that way, right?
No.
And 12-year-olds are great to be friends with.
A lot of middle schoolers, sure.
Yeah. So it's true, right? Yeah. So that's true, right? Yeah. Are you disagreeing or are you saying that that's true?
Apparently.
Jason and I operate a little differently too. I mean, he's definitely a much more, social guy. Like he feels like he needs that interaction a lot more than I do. But, it's just nice to have, those, for me, like 2 or 3 people in your life that it's just easy to be with them. Right. And that's what I like. People that are easy to be with, like comfortable silences, like we can just hang out and chill. And that takes time. I mean, every time you move to find those people, it's time. And I think that it can get tiring, I think, after a while if you do a lot of moving.
Well, like when you guys came out to visit us, and the time that we were hanging out together, it was like, oh, this is great. Like, this is amazing. And we're we're like aligned on all those, like we don't even have to really talk about the fire stuff because it's not like the elephant in the room kind of thing. Whereas with some of our friends here locally, it's like, we're on this different kind of trajectory. Like we're about to do something really different than they are. And so I find more distance there. So yeah, I know what you mean. And
it's interesting too because we've lived apart for a while now. I mean, we moved out of Maine when 2006.
15 years ago.
Yeah, it was 15 years ago. But it seems like we've kind of like our paths have kind of gone the same direction.
Parallel,
almost like parallel paths. And I feel like all the things that we kind of always felt close with you guys about. We still feel close to you about, and there's an ease there hanging out. Yes, I agree with you.
It's why I'm trying to get them to come out here and visit so they can see that they can make this area work and it can fit their fire plans, irrespective of Eric wanting to squeeze every dollar out of his business and not give it to the government living in California.
But you just told me it sucks out there.
Some things are worth it. No, it's awesome out here. I am actually very happy with the move.
Jason, in 3 years, Arwen is going to college. In 3 years, they're firing. Who knows where the fuck we'll end up?
Why did we buy a house then? In 6 months, the market bottom could completely drop out.
See, he gets so hung up on this stuff.
Because I'm right.
Just get rid of the house. Just get rid of it.
So are you considering moving?
Yeah, I don't care. I'll move in 3 years.
We've always been open to the idea that no change, none of these moves are permanent. Like, we're putting down roots now. This is the last time we can buy or rent a house. This is, we're done.
No, I love California. I love the climate. I love the vibe. It made sense for us to stay here because of school for Arwen. Totally. I mean, they have an awesome university system here. So we wanted to stay in state in case she wants to go to college here. We wanted to stay close enough to her friends, and our friends up in the Bay Area. But after 3 years, I mean, once she's off to school, for me, anything's on the table. Sounds like maybe not as much for him, but
no, on the table. But again, I think the way I recall our conversations going when we bought this house, something you were really into that idea.
Oh, keeping the house as a home base?
Was more when we pick where to move to, we should pick somewhere where we could see ourselves being happy for a long time, but acknowledging the fact that who knows what a long time will mean. We could just pick up and change our plans at any time. But I don't think I would maybe word it quite so cavalierly that, in 3 years we're just ready to sell the house. It's like, that could happen.
Yeah. Sure. I don't know.
Totally not aligned. I can see that. Yeah, that's good.
No,
we were very aligned on this point. It's your feelings change.
It's weird. I thought
realistic that everybody would be aligned all the time.
If there's a high likelihood, the point is if there's a high likelihood of you selling in 3 years, you don't buy a house. Like full stop. I wouldn't
say there's a high likelihood. I like where we live.
Okay, that's my point.
I just meant like for me, like I don't know, who knows? And
willingness, openness to the idea is something we both have.
I honestly I want more money to spend, so getting somewhere that's a little cheaper would be nice.
Laura, how do you really feel about the trawler idea?
Be honest.
I love the idea of a boat, but the reality of it is we have spent 0 time on a boat, and it's a very small space. I mean, we're going to be on the boat together in a very this size space for pretty much however long we're on the boat.
She loves the idea.
I have very romantic ideas about the trawler too. It's a very expensive investment, and it's something that I don't, it's not unlike a house. It basically will depreciate pretty quickly. So, when we are done with it and we have to sell it, we're not going to get anything back out of that again. So as a financial decision, I don't know if it's the best one.
Yeah, you can see where this is headed, man.
And also, it's actually pretty expensive to live on a boat, like with all the fees associated with being in port and fuel and all that stuff. It's not a cheap way of life compared to being in a van or something like that. But
here we go with a van.
You guys got to find
living in a van down
trawler
by the river.
Airbnb so you can test it out.
No, you're right.
So I think we need to do something like that.
It's a good idea, Lorri.
And we also have to educate ourselves on diesel engine repair and all kinds of stuff, which would be fun actually.
If you're gonna do your commune idea, why don't we just do a flotilla? We all get boats and make a little
Water World.
So this is a Water World now.
A fire cruise.
Okay, I want to be Dennis Hopper.
Let's get it.
Yeah.
We'll dig Dennis Hopper up from the grave and bring him with us.
Is he dead?
I think so.
I don't know. I don't think he's dead.
Oh no, I think he died a while ago.
No, I don't know. Since you're newer to fire, how did you introduce the idea to your 2 teenagers?
We just told them about it. I mean, I don't think it didn't really affect them either way, except that what we did do was we definitely have started to talk with them a lot about money in ways that I think neither one of us had when we were their age. They totally understand the idea of saving at a much earlier age than at least I did. I mean, I was saving, like I said, for specific items, but I was never thinking about the far future. So we got our kids, I would say Eric did most of the talking with the kids about this, like got them interested in the idea of having a Roth and like, how does that money grow? For every dollar you put in, that turns into $80 when at 88. Some point, 88.
More because they're younger, but anyway.
Okay. So, right. So they listened to that, and I think they took it in, and I do see that they are, one of the kids is more of a spendy type than the other one. But I think both of them are definitely thinking about things and much sooner than I ever did. So,
but in terms of like
great.
The retirement idea, like that we were retiring, is that what you mean, Jay?
It is.
Yeah. I would say that I don't remember them having any kind of like big reaction to that.
I think they think we're lazy, to be honest. I think they're.
No, they don't.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So
no.
like, what the heck are you doing? Well, that's not what people do.
Yeah. Well, I think Sig in a way is like, you just don't like what you're doing, Dad. So you're just like checking out, whatever. But I mean, it's not the narrative that we present. Where it's definitely that like freedom to choose, like you were saying, Lorri, like
right.
Own my time, basically. And I think that's what the financial education that we're trying to pass along to them is, like your parents did to you, Lorri, is just say, when you get these things sorted out, you control all of the levers, not somebody else. And you can choose to work for somebody if you want, or have a 60-year career if that's what you choose. But, the choice is yours, not someone else's to make for you. How have you guys,
exactly.
Has your daughter had any negative thoughts about you retiring, or is she ambivalent, or what?
I think she had a similar reaction. I think she was just kind of like, okay, not sure. Like, kind of thought maybe we were lazy. Yeah. But ours was a little more wrapped up in it, because us retiring meant we had to move. Oh, right. And I think she wasn't too happy about that. Early, when she was younger, she had no problem with it. But at that point, I think she was kind of a little more hesitant to move
high school,
out of the area. So.
She's in high school?
Yeah, she would be starting high school.
Yeah, it was between middle school and high school that we moved.
So how has she done making friends there?
Well, we moved here during COVID, so she didn't have any in-person schooling for the first
2/3 of the year.
Wow.
First 2/3 of the year. That was really difficult.
That's rough.
But the last third, I would say,
Well, yeah. As soon as she went back, she actually, integrated into a new friends group right away, pretty much. And during the time when she wasn't able to go to school in person, we made sure we were driving her back up north to the Bay Area, so that way she could see her friends.
Once you were allowed to travel.
Yes, of course.
And outside.
That's your disclaimer. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're not violating California lockdowns.
Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Right. What is your hope for Eric in retirement? Whatever that means.
I hope he can be happy. I want him to be happy. I'm sorry, that sounds trivial, but I don't want him to I don't want him to be obsessively focused on the budget. I want him to be able to enjoy whatever it is we choose to do together and the things that we choose to do separately. I hope that he still has, I guess, a certain level of respect and admiration for whatever it is I decide to do.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this.
Which is totally selfish, but I think...
I stayed away from it.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I don't want him to realize, like, she really should have just kept up with her career, because here she is laying on the couch eating bonbons for the 600th day in a row. I'm not going to do that, but like I do worry a little bit about my capability to fill my time in a constructive way, because he's already gone through that process of like, leaving the work, creating his own business, creating his own space, filling his time with things that he enjoys, and he's very good at creating structure for himself. And I have to go through that process still. So, and I also am not somebody who's naturally super structured. So, I feel like I'm just turning this around from what do I hope for him to what I hope for myself. But
well, it's all part of it.
I was going to ask you that as a second part. You just saw it coming.
Yeah, I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about his ability to to create whatever it is he sets his mind to, because he's done that over and over again. And I know he'll do it again, and he'll do amazing things. And I want to be able to do that too. And I don't yet know if I can. So
she's had this kind of conflict, like
already done it, Laura. I mean, you're clearly a very like self-directing, self-motivated person. I mean, look at your career right now. I mean, you have that whole lab that you're running. You've going through that whole PhD program, setting up your own lab, running your own lab. I mean, I don't foresee any issue for you finding a way to, keep yourself fulfilled and busy.
I think a lot of that, like having people who are depending on me, is a big motivator. And so when that goes away,
I get that.
Yeah, then you have to sort of, everything has to be very intrinsically motivated. So not having people waiting on me, like, okay, what are we doing now? Like having, once you sort of create that team of people and you're leading them, it kind of, I think I draw a lot of energy from that, and it causes me to do more and different things. And it's still within the realm of what I feel is interesting, but it's just a collaborative effort, I guess. And so it might mean that for me to be really happy with what I'm doing, it might need to be something that Eric and I are collaborating on. But then he's going to have to probably let go of some aspects of that thing and let me have control over.
I have a really hard time doing that, as Jason knows. But
you could collaborate with.
He is. He's trying.
I'm getting better.
Yeah.
He's getting better at it. Now, the one thing I wanted to add, Laura, is I think it's good, the idea to find intrinsic motivation. It's helpful to anyone, irrespective of their stage in life. But the other thing I was going to add is there's other ways to get extrinsic motivation other than people working directly for you. There's lots of ways to get validation and fulfillment, and I think it'll just be a matter of finding what those are. But as Eric and I have discussed many times, that freedom to explore different things and see how they tick those boxes for you or not is what you're buying when you do decide to ramp down your work or stop that type of work completely. You now have the space to try to fill with other things.
And you don't have to have
it solved. Some time. I mean, exactly. Yeah, you don't have to have it solved right away. It may take you a year or two. You may try 5 different things and find that they're not working. But it's just having the freedom to do that is awesome.
I mean, that's what
I would argue for me
about seeing you guys and seeing you go through this, like before us, in a lot of ways, that we can look to that as an example. And I mean, you guys are incredibly well aligned and supportive of one another. And I think that, I mean, it's a great example, I think, to show other people on how good it can be and what supporting the other spouse looks like and how that can help that person kind of, I mean, it's essentially what made it possible for you guys to do. I mean, even if you don't want to take credit for it, Lorri, it's like, that kernel of an idea was there that then Jason built, married with this kind of fire idea, and, the flexibility of you to say, okay, I'm going to take and invest my time with my daughter while Jason is building a career and supporting, the family. And like all those things are sacrifices and things that are intertwined, and we have a similar set of things. So I don't know. It's nice to be able to share it in this way, because I don't think people talk about it that often. So I appreciate it.
That's funny. Laura's answer when you had asked her what she wanted for Eric, that was the same answer that I gave Laura when we used to talk about it before he retired. I just wanted him to be happy. Yeah. And to be able to spend his time and find things that are fulfilling for him. But yeah, the main thing, just to be happy.
Not to sleep better.
And to sleep better,
yes. Which I do. So 2 thumbs up for sleeping better.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, same here.
He'd be up at like 3 a.m.
It's funny how much of our discussion, like, how little of our discussion actually focused on the finances and the numbers part of it, and how much of it focused on the emotional aspects of it. And I think that that's the bulk of what you confront here, whether it's finding friend groups or if it's coming to terms with, leaving a career behind and all of your sort of purpose and sort of self-worth with that. And they're like these really emotionally charged decisions wrapped up into this one little thing.
For sure.
And there's no perfect answer. It's just nice to have so many different kind of opinions and ways of doing it. Like Lorri, the way you've done it is just way different than I think how Laura will do it, but that the net result is going to be the same, I hope. Yeah. And I hope that you can
and work for you, most importantly, right?
Yeah.
We're all wired in our own ways. We have our backgrounds, our experiences, the way we look at the world, and all four of us look at things differently. But as long as your views are compatible and our views are compatible, right, it's going to work out. And
I think it's one of the more interesting aspects of this movement for me, the FIRE movement, is this part of it, the emotional part of it. Because I feel like you don't hear about that part enough. You know, all of these podcasts and you know, YouTube channels, they're all about the numbers and how to do it. And I think this is really cool that you're kind of getting a different take on it.
Yeah. And also that, like, it'd be nice to get you guys back and have perspectives on other topics that we're talking about. Like, we didn't talk a lot about, you know, choosing where to live, but like, that's something that we're really struggling with right now, as you know. And, you know, these are things that you guys have solved, but also you have an idea about solving those problems, in that this is one solution and it's going to work for a short period of time, maybe, or maybe a long period of time, but we're willing to revisit it. And I think that's especially interesting to me, because we've put roots down here and haven't made a lot of changes. And you guys have been able to change careers and locations and friend groups and like all these things that we look to you and say, oh, how do they do that? You know? And even you guys who are experienced at doing that are now coming in saying, well, you know, it's like, that's not perfect and this isn't perfect. And so it's just good to hear about it. And I'd like to, you know, it'd be great to check in every once in a while and do this again.
I'm going to start some kind of commune.
A fire commune?
I do like the commune idea.
I was just reading this article in the New Yorker. I mean, this is like it's kind of a millennial thing, like some new trend where they're trying to have these like communities, and I'd like some idea of that, like some kind of version of that, where it's like basically like your neighbors are people that like don't suck. Like, I like that idea, you know? Like, I want to be living like around people that.
Those neighbors are pretty nice. I don't know why you're pointing at them.